Welcome to the Trades Podcast, a podcast about the business of home improvement and promoting the trades to young adults.
Welcome, everybody. It's Wednesday where we are recording right here on this beautiful day, hanging out and just bringing to you some knowledge and some, stories and backgrounds and new people new people to the podcast, but not new to the industry. So I'm Danny with the Trades Podcast.
And I'm Jeff. Exciting day today. We have John in the house. And I'm going to start right off, John, and tell you came out and put in a mini split for me on my house. And you had a couple of young helpers there. And I never got to talk to you about this, but I was super impressed with your patience and your teaching and the effort you put into making sure they did a great job, but they were learning as they went too. I absolutely was very impressed.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm trying to do is teaching the young guys that are trying to get in this trade and teaching them right from the get-go. You see a lot of companies, especially the big companies, throw these guys in and just kind of give them little to no training right off the bat, and that's how these guys start making mistakes early on. But one thing I'm big on is training these guys and training them correctly. That's the goal.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, just to break it down, a very simple task. They had to mount a hanging bracket on the wall, and they started off, and from their perspective, it looked pretty level, and you were standing back looking at it. It's like, no, that looks good, but here's how you do it. Handed them a level, redo it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Weren't condescending to them and weren't yelling at them. Just that was good. You encouraged them for keeping it going, but like I said, I was real impressed. A lot of people don't have the patience for that.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough, and it does take patience sometimes. We can lose it sometimes, but I try to always keep a level head and remember when I was first starting out, and remembering the guys that were teaching me and even improving on things that they may have missed and try to give them the best advice. When it comes to working on these AC units.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a great testimonial right there, Jeff. I mean, the fact that we have someone on the show that, you use their service, you've seen it, you've seen the way John works. So I think the perfect time. I mean, we got on, your company to be introduced to the Trades Podcast and, introducing yourself too, because we're already learning a little bit more about your job, training and your skills, but let's introduce your company and yourself to the podcast world.
Yeah. My name is John Figueroa. My company is On Point Heating and Air. I've been in the industry for about 19 years. Pretty much done a little bit of everything, going from just regular residential to custom homes in residential and, commercial, a little bit of light commercial as well. Worked on a little bit of everything as far as even water source units in the commercial industry. So, it's a wide range of equipment. Not a lot of people know how to work on or know how to work on everything I just said. Some people just strictly residential, strictly commercial, and I like to spread more my horizons on being able to work on everything I can. Yeah.
Cool. And servicing San Diego, California area, any surrounding counties?
We do all of San Diego. We've done work all the way up to Manhattan Beach and as far east as, in Pearl Valley. I've actually done some work for some fellow contractors that have left California and Arizona. So I've even gone all the way out there to help them out, with their needs. So,
nice.
We're always willing to help out a friend and go far and wide. So, it doesn't matter. We go anywhere we can.
We want to thank our sponsor. Superior Flooring Cabinet Designs is one of the landmark family-owned businesses in Encinitas. Owner Cheryl Robertson, with years of customer experience managing her family's hardware and cabinet business in North Park. Cheryl Robertson and the Superior team dive deep to learn about your project, and help you find the perfect solution for your flooring and cabinetry needs. Call today at 760-436-0900 or visit www.superiorfloors.com.
So, it doesn't matter. We go anywhere we can.
Isn't that the beauty of the trades? Where I mean, you literally take your trade and your skill and your knowledge to anywhere part in the world, and you can absolutely be useful. You can help. You can lend a helping hand. That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, we did a job probably 4 years ago at least in Catalina Island. And the lady there, I had helped out her dad. She had a house or her dad had a house in Fallbrook, and her she couldn't find anybody to want to do work on that island because it's so difficult. You can't bring your trucks in. You got to bring everything in through the boats and the ferries. And I was like, what, this would be a new experience, and I kind of took it as a challenge and a new thing for me. So I was like, why not? We'll try something new. So we even did that, and we did a few mini splits for this customer in Catalina Island, which was a nice experience, because not many people could say they've done all that.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah,
Or
I've
even
heard
be on
that story,
Catalina
John.
Island. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a challenge, man, because you cannot forget anything. The their little stores that they have there that have supplies. They don't stock a lot of the things we have out here on the mainland. So
Mhm.
you really have to kind of think about every little scenario and make sure you're ready for that job out there.
Yeah. You mean Amazon doesn't have a fulfillment center
I I doubt it
out there?
very, very much. Not on that island. It's everything is island time and island materials. You got to really go in there ready.
Yeah.
That one was a tough one, man. That was a tough
Yeah.
one. But it
That's
was it
cool.
was it was a new experience to have.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. That's cool. I mean, you wouldn't think about those things, those obstacles, those challenges, sometimes when you think about, so like a homeowner goes into it and says, hey, like, well, what challenges am I going to, come across, especially when it comes down to heating and cooling, and, who do I call if I can't figure it out myself? And, when you can find someone like your company to take on those challenges, because like you said, probably not a lot of people will say yes to that.
No, yeah, that was one of this customer's challenges that everyone was telling her no. It's just and it was cool because we ended up the house was vacant. And we stayed there the whole week to do the work. And, this customer was really nice. She even let us borrow her little golf cart, to travel around the island, So it was a very nice experience, doing that job.
Hmm.
Challenging, but nice.
Nice.
And especially I've
Cool.
never been to that island. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, cool. I mean, well, that wasn't your first job, so, and you said it was 18 years of in the industry?
19, 19
19,
years. Yeah.
19 years in the industry. Well, take us to the beginning. What kind of led you to get into the trades, and, and then ultimately, starting on point?
So, I literally got into it at 18 years old. And I had a uncle that was saying, "Hey, this AC company came into a job that he was working on, and they were looking for apprentices." And so he told me the name, and I went in and applied. And this was during the '07, '08 recession. This was a very tough time to get to any trades because that recession was real hard, especially in construction. Um, but I was in it. I kind of hopped around companies, due to the workload. Everybody was kind of struggling to keep guys busy. But that's one of the reasons I'm thankful for because I hopped from regular residential companies to commercial, industrial, and I got such a wide range of experience. Having to switch companies so often during that recession that I did custom homes. I did, commercial or industrial water source units. I did regular commercial rooftop units, for strip malls. Custom homes, having to make, custom homes are already a challenge, and not many people know how to do those, because it's it's a challenge. People have very unique homes when you're dealing with custom homes as far as how you're gonna, bring ducting from one side to the other side of the house. And, you know, it's it was a nice upbringing as far as getting all that experience, within all those companies, but it was just it was good to have be able to be fortunate to get all that experience in a very small amount of time.
Hmm.
So, that's kind of where I started from there.
All right. Nice. And then that journey, one being exposed, and that's through family. I mean, I'm sure there was a few families, headbutt moments of, like, you give me some more work, or give me some more, you know, I guess more intense jobs to kind of work on and stuff. What was that kind of like family dynamic of, when you're first starting getting exposed to all this, and what learning curves did you have to go through?
You know, the biggest thing I felt like when I joined, like, the company that did a lot of industrial and commercial work was the on call.
Hmm.
I was a very young dad, at 18, and being on call, man, they could call you 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and you would pick up that phone and you'd be out there. There was no calling out. That company was very strict when it came to on call. So that was the challenging part. You could be at a family picnic and you get that call and you got to go. And I feel like in the very beginning that was a challenging part for us, and that company was a very busy company, and because they did plumbing, what I mean, and especially during the winter time, man, those pipes burst and you got to go out there and fix those slab leaks and things like that. I feel like that was one of the most challenging parts for me, was the on call. That just the quick calls and emergencies, you got to go and handle it.
Yeah. And now when you hear the phone ring, even though you just disconnected your phone for the podcast,
You know.
it's like you hear the dollar signs. I mean, obviously, it's been fulfilling for you to be in it for, 19 years. Of course, those calls, sometimes can be big projects, small little things, but being in for 19 years, you kind of understand, like, hey, this is absolutely a, industry that just pays back tenfold, I imagine.
Oh yeah, yeah, man. It does. You know, one thing that is hard, especially being a family man, is trades. Typically, trades like plumbing, electrical, HVAC. We don't work 9 to 5. It could be 7 till when you're done, and especially during the summer times, you're working on average about 12 hours. That's your average day. So you're out before the sun goes up, or comes up, and you're back when the sun is pretty much set. And that's the hard one, where my wife, she had uh a hard thing to understand it, where she would always tell me, what time are you going to be home so dinner is ready? I'm like, babe, I'll be home when I call you, when I say that the job is done, and I'm on my way home. That's when you'll know, because it's hard. This trade is not a 9 to 5. And so for the young men that are, thinking about coming into HVAC, just know that this is not a 9 to 5 job. This is a 9 to whenever you're done. Especially if you're in the residential field, where people are waiting for you to finish their heating and AC system so that they could be comfortable in their home. And some customers will tell you, hey, you can be here till 10. Keep working until it's done. So that's a big challenge.
Wow. So, John, how did you decide to quit working for somebody and start your own business?
I had a contractor. I still work with him to this day, and he was one that would always tell me, like, "Hey, John, like, I really like your work ethic." He would always choose me to do his installs when I was working for this company, and he would only select me to do all of his remodels and new construction homes. Um, and he was one that pushed me. I kind of thank him for pushing me so much to decide to go out on my own. And he was one of the biggest reasons for me to go out on my own. He kind of helped me to give me my first jobs, and that he was the main reason for sure. He always gave me that support to give me my initial work. A lot of contractors, I have to say, or a lot of new contractors, they always relied on the family, friends and family. I honestly didn't do any of my friends and family's jobs probably until years later after having my company open. Um, and so I think a lot to that contractor. Mike knows, um, but his name is Mike Bobo. He was a big guy on and to helping me get my company going, and always referring me to a lot of his friends and his customers, for repairs and new installations. And that's how I kind of got into to open up my company. He's like just kept pushing me, telling me, when are you gonna do it? Next year, next year. He's like, just you got to do it. He would always tell me, you just got to get in line and get into the game. So that was the big guy.
Interesting. Any regrets on starting your own, or?
No regrets, but I will tell people, my dad, he was a businessman. He is a businessman still. And he kind of embedded, being your own boss since we're kids. And, I did have a lot of help even from my father-in-law because he was so into, managing businesses, stuff like that. But people who get into being their own boss and thinking that they're gonna just make all the money and have all this time in their hands is not true, man. You will work harder and longer being your own boss than working for somebody. So that's one thing I will say is as far as regrets is like thinking that all of a sudden you're gonna have all this free time, and it's not like that. As you do have to push it a lot. Just with the workload.
Yeah, I'm
It
sure
takes a while to set up to where you can be the owner and not the operator.
Yeah,
Exactly, and that's it goes back to we spoke about early on in this video is teaching these young kids
Yeah.
the principles of this trade. So hopefully one day I can just be like, hey, there's this job, go handle it, and I can stick to doing the management side of things. Freeing up my time a little bit more. That would be
Absolutely.
nice.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Takes some
It's
work, but it's doable.
yeah. Yeah,
Exactly.
as soon as you said that, I'm sure there's a lot of business owners listening, just giving that big smile of like, like, oh, I left one company to think that I'm going to free up time, starting my own. Just a big grin on their face. They're like, yep, I've been there, done that, and living through it right now. Whether they're in the beginning stage of their business or they're already 5-6 years already in, there's always that piece where there's the perks, but there's always some things that kind of that you thought were going to be just don't end up being like that. So
Yeah, exactly. We just see we see what our if, when you're working for somebody, you see what your boss does, and you're like, oh, I'm going to just open up my company, and it's going to be just like that. Well, we don't realize that there's steps to get to that and years to get to that. So I do talk to a lot of young guys that have recently got their companies or that are looking to open up their own company, and I'm like, dude, it's not all fun and roses. It's going to be a challenge, especially the first 5 years of a business. I went on my own since 2019, so I'm just around that 5 year mark. You know what I mean? A little bit past the 5 years, but it's been a challenge. The first year, especially, we opened up our business right at COVID, right in COVID. So when all of a sudden I have my license and I'm ready to go, and all of a sudden I can't go into people's homes. So that was an interesting transition, scary one, because I was like, is my business going to go under because of not being able to get into people's homes or being able to, to service people,
Yeah.
and the risk of not knowing what's really going on with COVID itself. Like, do I want to risk myself and my family, kind of thing? It was a tough one. It
It
was
really
definitely a tough
was. There was a lot of unknowns in there for the first 3 or 4 or 5 months, definitely. But luckily,
Yeah.
you were essential business, and you just had to learn some new protocols: wear a mask, wear gloves, booties, probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everything, and that was another thing is, I don't know if you guys remember, but like the N95 masks that we use, we really would depend on a lot of that when, especially for like cutting drywall or we're in your attic. We could not find N95 masks. We had whatever we had stocked, but it was very hard. I had a guy that would wash his N95 mask because he had to have it. You know what I mean? So imagine you would go in the faucet and just rub some soap on it, dry it out, just because we needed to have them. So
That's a
that
tough
that
one.
was another. Yeah, it was, man. Because going into someone's attic where it's super dusty, man, that was hard.
Yeah, yeah.
Those little cheap masks don't do enough.
Yeah. I mean, that's great. I mean, there's just like the challenges that you went through, right? That piece, and even just starting from the beginning, from what Jeff had mentioned, the testimonial about how you manage and how you speak to your technicians to be out there. And now you even noted like, hey, like I do meet other young business owners that just opened up, and you're even talking to them, truly, because you get some owners that may say like, oh well, I'm not going to help them out,
Yeah.
whether I sign the license for them and they're moving on, I'm not going to help them out, or I'm not going to give them the advice, whether they think it's competition, what so on. But like you said, you're shining the light and letting them know truly what it means, after your 5-year mark now of 6-year mark of being in business on your own. What does that do for you? Can you talk on that? Like, what does that mean for you to be able to pass that knowledge on to someone else?
When I first got my license, the company I was working for, they kind of let me go because they felt that I was like competition, right?
Hmm.
And I thought about once I got my license, I kind of had that mentality. Oh, we're all in competition with each other. But in reality, man, I know of at least 4 different AC companies that we all buy the same brand equipment. We're all, Amana dealers, right? And Daikin and Goodman dealers. And I feel like we have a good relationship with each other where if we have questions on either equipment or business, we're together.
Hmm.
And, I don't see myself really competing against anybody. And if I can give a piece of, advice to young guys that are getting into this trade, I'll give them the most transparent, true answer to them because, that way they know what they're getting themselves into. I no longer feel like myself, at least, that I'm in any kind of competition or anything with anybody. I just want my guys to do well and excel in this trade. I want them to learn the trade and be better than I am. And surpass me. And that's one thing with these guys is me explaining to them what to really expect out of this trade and getting their license and all the steps that it's going to take to get to become successful in this trade. And you know feel like I'm rambling on now,
No,
but
that's great.
I do try to give them uh every piece of knowledge I can get them just so that they can do well for themselves. You know what I mean? I don't want to see anybody fail. And
Yeah.
there's so much work out here in San Diego. We're in San Diego. There's millions of homes. There's no way one company can service every home in this San Diego County. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So at the same time, there's work for everybody. There really is. Um, only the greedy ones want to have everything for themselves, but even they can't do it. There's not enough people for you to do that. So, we need other AC companies out here that are doing good work. We don't want the
Hmm.
bad ones. We want the good ones. Um, you know, uh, because they start giving us the bad name, the AC trade. I'm pretty sure we've all seen videos of those AC and plumbing and electrical scammers out there trying to scam people, or the grandma, stuff like that. I really frown on that, man. I really try to help everybody I can.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, those businesses, as we all know, all those are short term. It's so sad what they try to do, but you just can't sustain a business, or that all that stuff doesn't last long. And I mean, and you mentioned in like San Diego, it is millions of over 1 million homes, but that's only one piece of the jobs and work that's out there. Also, you had mentioned
Oh, yeah.
light commercial work. What speak on that, and then a little bit more of like more specifically on kind of the jobs that you guys are out there doing right now.
So we have a few property managements that manage like strip malls, just small strip malls, and 100 unit, strip malls, something like that. And we help them with, anything from, ducting replacement, or, especially commercial. You're always having people either leave or get a new space, and the ducting in the ceiling is always kind of a mess, because people are always going bigger, smaller. They don't know what they're doing. So a lot of times the ducting is in really poor shape, and we're having to go in there and resize and relocate things for them for it to accommodate their business. Also replacements of equipment. We do a lot of replacements. These strip malls that we do service, they got units like 50 years old. So they can last a long time as long as they're serviced. And so for these like commercial jobs, there's a lot of maintenance, replacements, ducting when it comes to new tenants leaving, or I'm sorry, new tenants arriving and old ones leaving. A big thing I've seen a lot lately is gyms. Gyms are a big thing right now, where they're taking over small strip malls. Um, there's more and more being built like crazy. I don't know. Uh, in my experience, and I have not seen the large influx of gyms being built like now.
So
And
it's
hot
all those
yoga.
baby boomers trying to get fit.
Yep, that in the hot yogas, a lot of hot yogas.
Okay, yeah.
What does that look like? What are you installing in a hot yoga like room? What are they asking for?
So a lot of electric heaters, and also gas heaters, and a lot of like very large exhaust systems, to be able to, they take all this time during working out to heat up the area, right? And I don't know I don't understand it, but the moment that the class is over, they want to extract all that heat out and then start all over again. And that's something I don't understand sometimes. To be honest, I'm like, if you spent all this money to heat it, and it's an hour class, you have another class coming in, but it's like they want the people coming in, the guys and girls, to come into a somewhat warm room and then slowly work it up as they're working out. I guess that's the way they're working it. But that's an interesting thing. I'm like, just leave it hot in my mind. But it's just one of those things. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. But
Or
man,
really bad scheduling. A hot class and a regular class, that you want it cooler a little bit.
yeah,
Another
I'm
hot.
like, yeah, they remove all the heat once the class that's going on ends, and then they start all the machines all over again to heat it up, and that's their routine. Hot to cold, hot to cold, or not even that cold, but warm.
I feel like that's a key piece of, sometimes the trades, you don't know what the purpose of, really even understand sometimes the purpose of what you're installing. But if that's what they want, you can make it happen. That's what you're going to do.
Yeah, yeah, and there's nothing like, for example, me, if because it's happened to me a few times on existing spaces like that, where I go fix an AC system in there, or a heater system. to work inside those places as they're working out. I'm a naturally hot guy. Like I'm always warm. And all of a sudden, hey, there's a thermostat's broken on the wall. I'm like, I'm already sweating as it is. And now I got to go in and during their class, fix this thermostat during like 110 degree. I think they bring it up to like 100 or 110. So it's warm in there. It is warm, but and it's plus all the body heat from the people working out. I'm like, man, that's not my favorite. But
That's when you go schedule something by the coast or in an AC spot,
Yeah, exactly. Well, the thing is that a lot of these are placed by like Pacific Beach and Solana Beach. There's a lot of cool areas, but they're trying to get their workout in.
Yeah. Jeff's definitely more of a yogi than I am. So I'm sure he probably. I don't know if you ever done hot yoga, Jeff.
Once is enough.
Once is enough. All right.
And without you even signing up for it, John, you got it.
Yeah, exactly. I got it, and I got paid on it. So
yeah,
that's nice. I do
that's
like
cool.
that.
That's cool. I mean, from hearing that, you find some purpose. You find that purpose of being able to service what your knowledge and what you've been able to build over the years, and bring that purpose to someone else's idea or vision into their space that they can create and make it their own. I mean, there's that fulfillment piece. I feel like you and your team, with every job you go to, you're fulfilling a need for them, but in the end, when the job is done, what does your team tell you at the end of a job, or what's that process like at the end of a job to like learn, get some feedback from your team to understand how you guys can do something better, or just get some feedback from it?
The things that my team usually, my apprentices will tell me is like, how did I come up with a design to accommodate that space, right? Like, what are we using for, or how do I come up with a plan that basically, um, meets the needs of that customer? Like, oh, because, my customers will tell me, hey, I want it to be this temperature, consistent, right? Consistently stay at that temperature during the whole class. They don't want to see fluctuations, so we got to come up with game plans to do that. And the my apprentice will usually ask me like, either how did I learn it or how did I come up with the design for that space. So those are the main question. I got to explain to them, pretty much that a lot of these experiences doesn't happen overnight. Doesn't, because a lot of times people want to have all that knowledge within a year or 2 years, and this takes times and a lot of trial and errors, seeing what works, what doesn't work. Um, especially San Diego, we're so diverse in climates. You could be by the beach, and then all of a sudden you could be, basically desert climate where I live here. We get up to 110 degrees in the summer, and you also have that middle area there that's not as hot and not as cold as where I live. And so you have to factor all those kind of climates when you're designing some of these pieces of equipment because it all changes. All those things change your design.
Yep.
So
I imagine a lot of it too is intuitively it comes down to, this is so many cubic foot room. I need so many ton compressor unit on the roof, to spread it out evenly. You get into the amount of ductwork and vents that need to be done, as opposed to one big one that's just blowing the whole room.
Yeah, no, that's a big thing is knowing your customers' needs, right? How they, and I always tell people when I'm installing it, for example, something new, I'll ask my customers, I'm like, hey, what is it that you want from your system? Like, how do you use your system? Are you someone that really, really loves AC or heating? And those are the questions that I ask to better know how to design that system for them. Um, it's just a lot of times people will want to upsize a unit. For example, if a home really just needs a 3-ton system to work well in that home, they're in the idea like, oh, I want a 4-ton. I want a bigger system. And bigger, especially in AC, is actually much worse than having one that's designed perfectly for that house. Especially if you're like, for example, if you're in a climate where it gets really humid, oversizing a system, that system, most of our AC units, they turn on and off by temperature. That's all that dictates when that system turns on and off. And so if you're in a humid climate, let's say that bigger size system turns basically turns on and off quickly. It never has enough time to remove all that humidity from your house. So you're still uncomfortable. Your temperature is down, but you're uncomfortable. Um, a lot of those problems happen in Pearl Valley, Calexico, El Central, Brawley, even Arizona, Arizona, a lot of that area, you start putting in big units in there. When it gets humid, your house is not going to be comfortable. So, just one of those things.
Absolutely. I did a tenant improvement on a building that we were leasing, and we put I was oversold a way too big of a unit, and it made noise. It was a wind tunnel.
Yeah.
The
Yeah, you
girls
can
were
have that.
The girls were freezing while the thing was on. Pull the jackets up over them and shut off. They have to take them off. It was just
Yeah.
the wrong
I,
system.
it's a tough thing when you have customers that think they've done enough research to know what they think they want, to backtrack them, to basically explain to them like, hey, this is the experience I have. This is the best thing for you. Just trust me. I've only had a handful of customers who were really, um, s- you know, adamant about having a certain style unit, brand, for example, even brands, but certain tonnages and how they wanted their ducting. And like, look, um, I have a very good experience in designing ducting equipment. I feel like I excel in a lot of tough situations where some people just don't have the ability to see how they can run a system itself and the ducting with it, to basically handle any situation, whether it's super hot or super cold. And you know, what is this? Basically, if and I always, like I said, I will tell a customer, just trust me. You will have the best system design out there. You know what I mean, compared to their neighbors, for example. As long as they trust me, and I've never had one ever come back and say, "Oh man, I really didn't like this." Like, most of the ones that were really, you know, adamant about having a certain system design, after I'm done, they're like, "John, I really thank you for doing that for me and telling me to just trust you and let you work." This guy Carlos in Kearney Mesa, man, that guy was hard. But I'll always remember him because he was the hardest. But that guy, he at the end, he's one that actually gave me, um, you know, a true honest thank you and
Yeah.
appreciated me at the end.
Mhm.
You know,
Very good.
That's huge. Yeah, because I mean, you hear it time and time again where it's like, like, oh, homeowner, they went in on YouTube, they read however many articles, watched one guy on wherever, and they said, oh, this is what I want, this is what I need, without factoring in the specific, geographical climate, the power, I imagine, the energy efficiency, the incentives to install one other product versus another, and that's where your 19 years of experience should absolutely be validated and brought in. But as we all know, just homeowners sometimes just have their way set, and that's it.
yeah, man, it's a battle. It is a battle, but it's a it's a it's a it's a battle to have for their benefit in the end. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
And like I said, some are can be quite stubborn and adamant, but I've always been very stern in telling them, like, look, just give me a shot.
hmm
Just give me a shot, and I'll always tell them, like, if this doesn't work and if this is not to your satisfaction, I will do your design. I'll go back and pay for whatever it is that repairs need to be done to bring it back to what they wanted. And and just to give them that peace of mind, like, hey, I'm willing to work for you guys. I'm here to make you guys happy. And thankfully, never had to do it. But I've always, we kick butt, man, when it comes to design. We really do. So that's a good satisfying thing for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got to give a shout out to Cheryl up at Superior Floors and
Yes,
Cabinet
sir.
Designs. I've watched you lay out the system in there because she went from what, like a rooftop unit
Yeah, she had these
with little ductwork.
two. Yeah, she had two rooftop units with exposed metal ducting on the roof. She was always battling, the system's not working right because, she does live by the coast, or now I'm sorry, the business is by the coast, so it does get some salt corrosion damage on these AC units and the ducting. And then she was also battling the water leaks on the roof because all those rooftop ducts that are penetrating the
Yep.
roof going down. Man, do they just it was a never ending battle with those. You fix one, another one leaks, and it was just a domino effect between all the ducting. So we went complete ductless mini split ducts with her systems, and man, they perform well. You don't ever have to worry about roof leaks or anything like that. All the penetrations are through the wall. Also the servicing wise, man, mini splits in general are you can do a lot of servicing, yourself as a homeowner. And I always, explain to my homeowners how to do the very basic maintenance so that they don't have to call me out as much. And, I always tell them, hey, if with this style equipment, it's a good brand. We chose a good model, which, requires little to no, servicing on my side. They still have to do a little cleaning of the filters, things like that. But, I always explain to them how to service their own equipment to help them out. And with Cheryl, man, that at Superior Flooring, she got a very good models and good brands. So her repair costs have gone way down compared to her other systems that she had.
I think
So
one of
that's cool.
the other things that I was noticing about that, because I've watched her in the showroom, she gets a lot of different types of clients in there. And when she's talking to them, you can't tell the mini split is on, whether it's heat or air conditioning. Before, you'd hear the whistling almost of the air conditioning and stuff. So it made for a much more pleasant environment for her to
Yeah.
do business in with customers.
Yeah, the rooftop units, they're super loud. They hum like crazy. They vibrate like crazy. Um, they do have a purpose, but in that application at her business, uh, it is it was just not a good design for that business. And obviously this building has been there from before, so that's what they kind of had. But since technology has moved and improved, the mini split options, they have so many different kinds of modes. You got your fan selection, you have your night mode, your quiet mode. So even in the most highest of setting for airflow, they're still quiet. So, especially in home applications, if you were to have one right above your bed or, or in your bedroom, you put that thing on quiet mode, you're not hearing anything. Those things are just work awesome. Quiet, efficient, especially since there is no ducting, you don't have temperature or air loss. So that's great. Good designs, Mitsubishi, when they come up with that technology, Mitsubishi and Daikin were the first founders of that technology. Man, they did well. Those guys were thinking. I think it's been like 50 years since they came up with that technology, something like that. And they did well. They did well in coming up with that style of equipment.
It's 50-year-old
Yeah,
technology on splits.
mini split technology, I believe, was in the 80s. Is when they came up with it, maybe even 70s. But the thing is that uh, things when it comes to AC technology, sadly, the U.S. is always late to the game. Um,
Mhm.
Asia, basically, Asia and the surrounding areas are always the first ones to get all the new stuff. They're always the first ones. So, and we were always kind of hesitant. I feel like our basically, I don't know if it's the mentality of our country that just like, oh no, we don't like that new stuff. We don't want that. We're happy with what we have. But once it starts kind of getting inserted little by little, we're like, oh man, that's actually pretty cool. Like, I kind of like this stuff. It's efficient. It's quiet. All the good things that come with the especially how small these things are in comparison to having a full duct and central system. That's maybe a quarter of the size of any kind of equipment that's out there.
Yeah, yeah.
So
They're absolutely great. Watching them go in there and seeing over on the Burger Hardware side, you've got one right behind the desk where all the people sit.
Yeah.
Doesn't interrupt them from business at all. They have total control of the remote for the temperature setting and the blower speed. Yeah, they're great. I've watched many customers come in, and it's like, wow, it's nice in here.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah,
on
no,
the
and
go.
yeah, no, they're good. Just like you said, they're quiet enough to where you can do business. Being right next to them, you can be on the phone with anybody. We could be
Yep.
talking right now, and you wouldn't hear it. And another thing is that a lot of people don't know about mini splits is you can install like UV purification systems to those units. So if you're,
Okay.
in the medical field and you want to have a mini split and you want to have, your air being purified consistently, that light is on 24/7 and they have a 3-year lifespan for those kinds of applications. So, for 3 years, man, you're getting your air purified consistently.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and also the benefit of mini split technology is it doesn't need to turn off. You can have that AC unit on 24/7 every day of the year without ever turning off, and it doesn't hurt it. The reason being is they have variable speed inverter compressors and blower motors, so the machine can basically speed up and slow down when it needs to give itself a break. Unlike the traditional units that have to turn off so that they can cool off and take a break, mini splits don't need that.
Yeah,
So, so you can have consistent, air cleaning and air or heat as you want it. It's great technology.
Yeah.
fantastic.
That's, I mean, obviously the energy, the technology is shifted for, throughout the years of AC. And like you said, you're trying to bring in the best technology for your homeowners and make it more, I imagine, energy efficient being out here in California. I'm sure a lot of
Yep.
people focus heavily on that. So, I mean, technology has always been a big piece that Jeff and I talk about. And then even just like what you mentioned, just the noise. We always had joked about in the beginning of our podcast when we first started recording. We were in a building where we would sometimes almost stop because we heard the AC kick on, and then you can hear it in the background of the recording, and you're like, oh, there's the AC. Here we are at the chamber, business building.
Want to thank the North County Business Chamber for letting us use their conference room. The AC kicked in. It's nice and cool now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all these applications, it contours to that experience or that environment that you want to create for yourself. So, knowing that you got people on side like On Point, you John, to advise people in that direction and let them know just the things that they may not have thought about. That makes a big difference in that full experience.
Yep. No, 100%, man. Especially if you're doing a traditional system that goes in your attic. One place we never place your indoor unit is above your bedroom. Putting that as far away from your bedroom as possible. So when you are using your central system at night, it's not keeping you up from, the noise of the unit. We have to think of all those things when designing a house,
For sure.
because I'm not a light sleeper, but there is some people out there that can hear the slightest thing in their house and they're up. And we always try to think about those people when installing AC units. Making sure that they're happy with their new system, man. That's the biggest thing. Making sure your customers happy with what they're paying for.
Yeah,
So
moving a system that was put in the wrong spot is probably pretty expensive too.
it's expensive and hard, man. It's a tough thing.
Yeah.
Nice.
Having to redesign someone else's design is the hardest.
I get you. So, finally, we'll wrap things up. John, you got any advice for young adults thinking about getting into a construction trade career?
I think one of the best things is when you're getting into construction, and I think in any trade, any job, is I feel like having a good attitude, man. Having a good working attitude, I feel like that is the best thing, because you get some of these young kids that are getting into the construction trade. Some of these guys feel entitled to whatever it may be. And I feel like if you can go into a place and have a good attitude, that is a great thing. Just makes it easier for any boss or any uh, you know fellow employee to work with you.
Well, I think this is pretty good recording, Danny. John really dove into a
Yeah.
lot of the aspects of running your own business, helping out the next generation, being cooperative with other contractors in the field.
Yeah.
Customer service definitely a priority for them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Did I get it
Well,
right?
I can hear you. I can hear you guys now. I wasn't able to hear you guys for a second there.
Yeah. Yeah, it was an incoming call I think you had gotten, but no, we were just mentioning just how, how great of a, one story you have, but even just the journey that you're on right now, on your collaboration piece, your willingness to help the industry, willingness to not see everybody as competition, but as a helping hand that you can, everybody can contribute to, like you said, just creating a better environment within the heating and air space, but also just the professional space within your company too. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, we're excited to have had you on. If people are going to reach out to you, where do they find you?
They can call 619-444-2665. That's our direct company line. And, our email is john@onpointheatandair.com. They can call or email me, or, we also have our website, onpointheatandair.com, and reach out there, as well. Be happy to help them.
All
Fantastic.
right. Perfect. Thank you so much, Mr.
Yeah.
John Figueroa. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Everybody, this is a Trades Podcast. If you got questions for John, reach out to him. We'll put his information in all that, those show notes, so you can check it all out. And again, reach out to him. He's servicing San Diego County and surrounding, if it means helping you out and creating that next project. So thanks again, John.
Thank you, guys.